Hello everyone, this is Gemini Jets 1975 coming at you with another installment in the Liveries and Aircraft series, this time on Pan Am. Before I get started, I need to go over a couple of historical milestones that Pan Am accomplished. We won't go too far back because this could take forever. Anyway, just 2 years after World War II ended, they operated the first scheduled commercial round-the-world service with Constellation aircraft. And they were also the first to introduce coach service, or economy class as it's called now. And when jet service first started, they were first to offer round-the-world jet service in 1959. And they basically offered continuous scheduled round-the-world service until I think the link stopped in about 82 or 3, somewhere around that time frame. The link between Delhi and I think it was Singapore, somewhere around there. But anyway, Pan Am was an amazing airline. They were, instead of called the world's favorite airline like British Airways, they were called the world's most experienced airline. Anyway, let's get started with our livery comparison here. When Pan Am first introduced the 707, not the world's first jet aircraft, but probably the world's first, not even mass-produced, because the Comet was mass-produced, but it was the most successful jetliner, so it's pretty tough to say it was the first one, because it wasn't. But when they first introduced it, instead of Pan Am on the plane, it said Pan American. And the DC-8 had that, the 720, which is a little-known yucky variant of the 707. And anyway, let's get started with the basic Pan Am Globe livery here. Alright, here. So if you start out, basically sometimes you have the black underneath the windows, then you have the black cone, the radar cone at the tip, and then your blue cheat line. Underneath the cheat line, right at the boarding door, is where they usually put the clipper name. Every Pan Am jet had a clipper all the way back, basically till from DC-3s and 4s all the way to the very end. So just about every single Pan Am plane had one. It might have started at the very beginning or soon after. Then you have Pan American, or Pan Am in this case, in black titles above the cheat line. And then you've got your cheat line that runs all the way down to the end of the plane. And then the very, very famous blue Pan Am Globe emblazons the tail. And this livery was pretty much used ever since they quit calling themselves Pan American World Airways on their airplanes. They had a PAA logo on their tail during that time. So we're talking about DC-4 or DC-5, DC-6 time frame when they started using this livery. And that was probably 50s, perhaps the 40s. So you could basically say from the 50s all the way to the end. That's about 40 years. Well, Of course, we know Pan Am was the first to introduce the 707. And then, many years later, when the turmoil started, they merged with National. So, you've got to include the National. National was a very interesting story in its own right. Basically the reason for buying National was to get a domestic route network. The federal government did not allow Pan Am to fly domestic routes. So, after deregulation, when the rules were lifted, they decided to do that. So instead of making one organically through normal growth, they bought an airline, which was a very bad idea because a couple other airlines purposely bid the price higher to make it more difficult and more expensive. So, as far as National, very colorful livery. Pilot Gemini 33, you would probably like this livery because it's got a sun. But anyway, you've got the orange and yellow sheet lines basically run all the way down. You got the National title, and then goes all the way down to the horizontal stabilizers back by the tail, and then you've got the National Sun King. I think it's called the National Sun King, if I remember right. Well, among the many aircraft that Pan Am introduced the world to, the 747 SP is another one. I don't have a 747, stupid, but I don't. I know Gemini still has one that they started making, released a few months ago, but I never have bought it. I've been too busy getting planes for the airport. Well, the 747 SP for special performance basically is a shortened, longer range version of the regular 747. And this plane could fly non-stop New York to Tokyo. So that's what they did with it when they got it. They also used it for routes like LA, Sydney, instead of having to stop over in Nadi or Honolulu. Then they could fly nonstop. Same exact livery. You've got your regular Pan Am titles here, and your Pan Am Globe. But yeah, the SP, they were sold to United with the purchase of the Pacific Division in 1986, and United used them for a little while. In fact, they painted a couple in their own colors. I believe one even made it into the Battleship Gray colors. I don't remember the exact reason Pan Am ordered the L-1011. I know they ordered them right after the Pan Am merger. I'm sorry, the Pan Am merger. They ordered them right after the National merger. So, I believe they liked the performance better than the DC-10. It's a little bit fishy. I can't really find a source that tells me the reason that they wanted to buy both. Delta operated them both, but there's a completely different reason why they did. It's known why they did, but I'm not sure with Pan Am. But anyway, they did operate the L-1011. These, I know they got rid of later. They got rid of practically everything. There was no major change in the livery until they introduced the billboard. And out of the Pan Am liveries, I probably like this one the best. You do have the black nose cone here, and your very large billboard titles. I believe Aviexa, there was a Central American airline that had ties to Pan Am. Well, heck, if you really want to know, practically every airline in Latin America had ties to Pan Am. Was either partially owned, fully owned by them at one time, or was financed by Pan Am, or, I mean, it's unbelievable. So you got the Billboard Pan Am titles running along the fuselage, without a cheat line, and then on your tail is still the Pan Am globe. So, the 727s in the Pan Am network were used, they were late arriving into the fleet. They used them on what were called internal German services, which were between Berlin and the major cities of West Germany. An afterthought of World War II. They were eventually sold to Lufthansa. I don't remember if that was right before or actually it had to be before the German reunification, because Pan Am was bankrupt about the time of the reunification. So, they also use them for Caribbean routes. Island hopping, so to speak, and they might have, I think they would use larger jets like A300s and briefly L-1011s and of course 747s to bring people from New York JFK down to the Caribbean. And I think they used them out of Miami to bring them into the Caribbean as well. Lastly, we have the A300. Pan Am was not the first North American Airbus customer, but when they got a hold of them, they sure liked them. I believe Airbus was friendly to Pan Am as far as financing because, Pan Am was in such horrible financial condition. Probably the reason they liked Eastern as well. So on this plane, of course, the Clipper name up at the front. I believe this is Clipper Dallas. I did that purposely. Then there's Pan Am, and then of course the Airbus A300 right there, and the Pan Am globe on the tail. So that's basically a kind of a snapshot look at some history of Pan Am. Like I said, I could probably talk for an hour about the history of Pan Am, and I definitely wouldn't cover everything. Very sad when this airline went bankrupt. One of the final nails, or the final nail in the coffin, Delta purchased Pan Am's transatlantic division, which was the only other remaining segment of the airline other than Latin America remaining. And that was in 1991. They also had promised to buy the Frankfurt, Germany hub, no longer. The New York JFK hub, they're still using it. And the shuttle, the Boston, New York, Washington, D.C. air shuttle, which they are still using. They bought that. And part of the purchase agreement was financing to inject money into the company to help keep them going. And Pan Am kept needing more and more money. This is an extremely sore subject with some people because they think Delta pulled the plug purposely to kill the airline. Delta says that they did it because they were basically tired of financing a sinking ship. So they apparently were going to pay more money because Pan Am asked for it and they decided not to. And literally very shortly after that, Pan Am shut down, and the remaining assets and routes were sold to United. So United briefly had a Miami hub. Obviously, that is no longer there. Most of those flights, the ones that have remained, were shifted to Washington Dulles and Chicago. United briefly had some deep South American services out of New York JFK. They really don't fly out of JFK anymore. When United operated around the world services in the late 90s, 1996-ish, they were still flying these routes out of Miami, New York, and I think they had started other ones, but New York and Miami were the main cities. Anyways, enough babbling. A little bit about the liveries and the history of Pan Am. As always, guys, like, comment, subscribe. The next one of these that I hope to do is on Continental. There's going to be a lot of history in that one too, just to let you guys know. Like, comment, subscribe as always. Thank you guys for watching. And, oh wait, I do have some shoutouts on this video. I promised a few people. Whoops. Let me get some of these right here real quick. First, I want to thank all of my subscribers. There's got a few subscribers that need a little bit of help, requested some shout-outs. So let me get this pulled up real fast. Okay. Okay. I know, let's see here. Delta Aviation, fairly new to YouTube. You check out his channel. Shout out to him for sure. That hobby kid, relatively new to YouTube as well. Check out his channel. They're just up and starting, so they use all of the support and help that they can get. Again, thank you to all. Today I reached 120 subscribers. I want to thank you all very, very much. And now that this video is getting up to about 18 minutes, I definitely better cut it short. So anyways, guys, thanks again. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video.